In this video, I'm going to show you how to dose a patient in Dawn AC. So I'm in the patient record already, and I can see the banner at the top of the screen has got the patient information. And this enables me to make sure I'm dosing the correct patient. So I'm going to manually enter an INR and just hit enter, or I could have clicked the accept INR button. Now, if you have an interface, it's possible that the INRs will be coming in over the interface and will just be sitting there ready for you to decide on the dose. Dawn uses an internal dosing algorithm, and we can see it's suggested a dose for the patient to take and a next test date. It's telling us that the INR is in range, and it's picking this up from the target range that the patient has got set. It's using the colour coding system, and it's showing no warnings, so both this information panel and the dose button is green. If I was happy with everything, I could just accept the dose and the next test date and move on to dose my next patient. However, I might know something about the patient that the system doesn't know, and I don't actually agree with this dose, in which case I can use the up and down arrows to decrease or increase the dose. We don't recommend that you type the dose in, because this could introduce a transcription error, but we do recommend that you use these buttons. So I'm just going to decrease the dose, and you can see that it's taken it down one increment, and that actually means a dose decrease of 5%. If I take it down another dose, you can see what's happening now is Dawn is kicking in with alerts, and it does this a lot to make sure that what you're doing is what you think you should be doing. So it's saying, warning, you have changed the suggested dose but not the suggested interval. Please confirm if the interval is appropriate. So I say OK to the message, I check the interval, and I think, oh, actually I'm changing the dose, so perhaps 8 weeks isn't a suitable interval to give them. So I can either click on the calendar and choose a new date, or I can highlight the date and I can type in +2W and hit enter, and I can see then that it's given them a 2-week appointment. Now, if I still wasn't happy with this, I maybe wanted to change the days of the week that the different doses were on, I can double click on the dosing panel, and this brings up an editing screen. So maybe I want to change the day to Friday and suggest that they take an additional dose, the 2 higher doses on Saturday and Sunday, and then 1.5, 1 and 1.5, however I want to do this. And in order to save that, I actually click on this close button here. I would want to put maybe some notes in as to why I've changed the dose. So maybe the patient told me something, so I might write details into there. Now, if I want to alert the next person dosing this patient that there's some important details for them to read, what I can do is I can click on this little eye here. It marks the notes as important and it turns them yellow. So when the next user tries to dose this patient, they're immediately alerted that there's some important notes in there. If I'm happy with everything now, I can accept the dose and the next test date. What you can see as well is that I've got certain things triggering to happen on accepting the dose and the next test date. So what's happening is a letter is being printed with the dose information on to the patient. There's a message going to a care facility by fax. Nowadays it would probably be email. And it's sending a message back to the laboratory system or the patient administration system with the dosing details and the next appointment details. So I can say OK to that message. I can see the one I've just dosed in the history, the next appointment ready, and they're sitting waiting for an INR. So this patient is completely finished with and waiting to be dosed the next time they're due. In this example, I'm going to show you what happens when we put in a considerably higher INR. So I'm going to type in an INR of 4.8 and it's popping up a warning saying you've entered an INR that is significantly different from the previous INR. Please correct the INR if this is a mistake, or click the red question mark if it's the INR that you did want to put in. So say OK to the message. So this would be a scenario where perhaps I was trying to type 2.5 and I typed 25. It's there to warn me, have I done the right thing? If the INR comes over the interface, there's no issue. It doesn't put a red alert on it or anything. So I acknowledge that INR. Now then, you can see straight away, Dawn has put some warnings up. So it's changed the dose by 26%. It's telling us that the INR has changed by more than 1.5. It's done a dose change because 1 out of 1 result have been above 3.3. And this patient has a high INR, and I should really check why with the patient. It could be that they've had something that has interfered with the action of their warfarin. If I look further over here, it's telling me, it's suggesting the patient takes no milligrams for 2 days, and then it's done this big dose decrease. Now, if I don't agree with that, I could choose to not miss any days by clicking on this plus or minus, and that will clear the miss or boost doses. But I might speak to the patient and decide I do want them to miss 2 days, but when I look back at the history, they've been quite stable on that dose, so I'm going to miss the days but keep them on the same dose. So I can use this button here to put the dose back to what it was previously. I might think about it again and think, well, I do want to bring it down slightly. So I could decrease the dose, or I can change my mind and put it back to what it was again. We can see that Dawn has reduced the next appointment time dramatically to 7 days. I would want to put some treatment notes in as to what I did and why, and then when I'm happy with everything, I could just click accept the dose. Again, I'm getting the messages triggered like I did on the last example, so I'll just say OK to those, and I can see this in the history.